Stop lying to yourself about what his words really mean and understand something that will save you from years of confusion, heartbreak, and wasted time, because what I'm about to reveal will completely shatter every excuse you've been making for behavior that's slowly killing your ability to recognize what real love actually looks like. I've spent the last 16 years working directly with thousands of women across 4 continents, studying the exact psychological patterns that trap intelligent, successful, incredible women in situations that drain their confidence and steal their best years. And there are 4 specific word combinations that when a man says them to you, they don't just show his intentions, they show his entire plan for how he's going to use you, keep you waiting, and then discard you when someone he thinks is better comes along. These aren't just warning signs, they're carefully designed psychological weapons disguised as honesty, vulnerability, or even wisdom. And the second these words come out of his mouth, you need to recognize that you're not dealing with someone who's confused or trying to figure things out. You're dealing with someone who has already decided that you're not worth his full commitment, but convenient enough to keep around for companionship, validation, and intimacy while he keeps shopping for what he really wants. Don't skip to the end, because the 4th phrase is so culturally accepted and so wrapped in false romantic wisdom that 97% of women actually feel relieved when they hear it. And it's the one phrase that destroys more women's futures than all the others combined. Before I expose these 4 phrases that should send you running, you need to understand something that will fundamentally change how you see every single relationship you'll have for the rest of your life. Most women have been programmed by movie, by family, by friends, by culture, to believe that love means being endlessly patient, constantly understanding, and always looking for the good in someone instead of seeing the reality of who they actually are right now. We've been conditioned to think that being the right woman means we can inspire a man to change, that if we just love him correctly enough and wait long enough and prove ourselves valuable enough, he'll finally see what's right in front of him and commit to us. This conditioning runs so deep in our minds that we've completely lost the ability to tell the difference between a man who's genuinely working on himself and a man who's just saying whatever keeps us confused and waiting while he looks for someone better. We've been taught to believe that having standards gets in the way of love, instead of understanding that our standards are the foundation that makes real love possible. Ancient wisdom teaches us that we can't build anything real with someone who doesn't value what we're offering. But modern dating has twisted this into believing that protecting ourselves is selfish and that having boundaries pushes people away. Here's what nobody wants you to know about the phrases I'm about to share with you. They're not accidents or communication problems. They're strategic tests designed to measure how much disrespect you'll tolerate and how willing you are to abandon your own needs to accommodate his convenience. Every man who uses these phrases has used them before on other women, has seen exactly how well they work to make women expect less and give more. And he's betting on you to make excuses for his behavior instead of seeing it for the manipulation it really is. What I'm teaching you right now isn't just dating advice. It's protection that will save not only your heart, but your entire future. Because the man you choose doesn't just affect your love life. He shapes everything: your career, your friendships, your family, your money, your health, and most importantly, how you see your own worth. Choose wrong and you'll spend years trying to heal from the damage while watching your dreams disappear as you pour all your energy into someone who never intended to give anything real back to you. The first phrase that should make you leave immediately, not tomorrow, not next week, but the exact moment you hear it, is when a man says, "Just give me time," in response to any conversation about commitment, exclusivity, or moving the relationship forward. This phrase is one of the sneakiest forms of manipulation in modern dating because it's designed to sound reasonable and fair when it's actually him demanding that you put your life on hold indefinitely while he does whatever he wants without any accountability. When a man tells you to give him time, he's not asking for a reasonable period to process his feelings or work through legitimate concerns. He's asking you to stop having needs. Stop asking questions and stop expecting him to treat you the way someone who actually values you would treat you. He's basically training you to believe that your natural desire for clarity and progression makes you demanding and difficult. And if you could just stop needing things from him, everything would be perfect. This phrase works because it flips the entire dynamic and makes you feel like you're the problem in the relationship instead of recognizing that his refusal to commit is the actual problem. Here's what's really happening when he uses this phrase. He's already decided he's not sure about you, but he doesn't want to lose access to whatever you're giving him, whether that's emotional support, physical intimacy, companionship, or ego validation. So he needs to buy himself unlimited time to keep you available while he figures out if something better is going to show up. He wants every single benefit of a committed relationship without any of the responsibility or accountability that real commitment requires. The worst part of this phrase is how it transforms your legitimate needs into character flaws. You start believing that wanting to know where you stand makes you anxious, that asking for the relationship to progress makes you pushy, that needing security makes you weak, and that having any timeline makes you demanding and controlling. You begin performing this version of yourself that never needs anything, never asks for clarity, and never makes him uncomfortable by wanting things to evolve. And this performance becomes your prison because you're constantly suppressing who you really are to avoid being labeled as too much or impatient. What this phrase actually means is that he wants you to wait forever while giving him everything. A committed partner would give loyalty, consistency, emotional investment, physical intimacy, but without ever being able to expect anything in return. You're supposed to act like his girlfriend without the security of being his girlfriend. You're supposed to be exclusive while he keeps his options open. You're supposed to be invested while he stays detached. And you're supposed to be understanding while he does absolutely nothing to earn that understanding. The cruelest part is how this phrase keeps you in a constant state of hope and anxiety. You're always wondering if today is the day he'll finally be ready, always looking for signs that he's changing his mind, always walking on eggshells to avoid being too much or asking for too much. And you start to forget your own needs completely because you're so focused on managing his comfort and keeping him interested. This isn't love, this is emotional manipulation. And the longer you stay, the harder it becomes to remember what being truly valued actually feels like. The second phrase that should immediately end any conversation is, "I'm just being honest with you," right after he says something that's clearly hurtful, disrespectful, or shows a complete lack of care for your feelings. This phrase is psychological manipulation disguised as integrity, and it's designed to make you feel like you're being too sensitive for being hurt, while simultaneously making him look like the mature, truthful person in the relationship. When a man uses "I'm just being honest" as a shield for cruelty, he's not demonstrating good communication or brave vulnerability. He's using honesty as a weapon to hurt you while avoiding accountability for that hurt. He's essentially telling you that because he wrapped his disrespect in truth, you have no right to be upset about it. And if you are upset, the problem is your inability to handle honesty, not his choice to deliver it without any consideration. This phrase works so effectively because our culture has elevated brutal honesty as some kind of virtue, when the reality is that you can be honest and kind at the same time. You can tell the truth and still care about how your truth affects someone else, and you can communicate difficult things without weaponizing that communication. When a man hides behind "I'm just being honest," he's revealing that he values his right to say whatever he wants more than he values your emotional safety or the health of the relationship. What makes this phrase particularly destructive is how it trains you to accept terrible treatment without complaint. You start believing that being hurt by his words means you can't handle reality, that wanting him to communicate with kindness makes you fragile, that needing him to consider your feelings makes you weak. And slowly, you stop reacting to things that hurt you because you've internalized his message that your pain is your problem, not his responsibility. Here's what he's not telling you. Honesty without empathy is just cruelty. Truth without care is just violence. And communication without consideration is just abuse with better vocabulary. Men who actually care about you find ways to be truthful that don't destroy you in the process. They understand that how you say something matters just as much as what you say, and they would never use their honesty as justification. N for making you feel small, unworthy, or hurt. The devastating consequence of accepting this phrase is how it disconnects you from your own emotional intelligence. Your feelings are information. They're signals that tell you when something isn't right, when someone isn't treating you well, when a situation isn't safe for your heart. And when a man convinces you that your feelings are the problem instead of his behavior being the problem, he strips away your primary protection mechanism and leaves you completely vulnerable to ongoing mistreatment. The third phrase that should make every alarm in your body scream is "you knew what this was" whenever you express unhappiness with how he's treating you or you ask for the relationship to move forward. This phrase is pure gaslighting designed to make you feel crazy for wanting basic respect and progression in a relationship. He's basically telling you that because he set low standards from the beginning, you have no right to expect him to treat you better, even as the relationship becomes more intimate and more serious. When a man uses this phrase, he's showing you that he thinks relationships are contracts where women agree to accept terrible treatment forever, as long as the man was upfront about planning to treat them terribly. He's telling you that your feelings don't matter, your growth doesn't matter, and your needs don't matter because he warned you from the start that he wasn't going to meet them. This is like someone punching you in the face and then getting angry at you for bleeding because they told you they were going to hit you. What makes this phrase absolutely devastating is how it makes you doubt your own memory and perception of everything that's been happening between you. You start questioning whether you imagined the intimacy, whether you made up the connection, whether you're being unreasonable for expecting someone who acts like your boyfriend to actually be your boyfriend. He's training you to believe that your interpretation of reality is wrong and that his version of events is the only one that matters. And this is the foundation of psychological abuse. This phrase reveals something critical about his character. He sees your emotional investment as a weakness to exploit rather than a gift to treasure. Instead of feeling moved by your growing feelings, instead of being inspired by your vulnerability and trust, he sees it as proof that his manipulation is working. He views your desire for more commitment not as a natural result of increasing intimacy, but as you trying to change the rules of the game, and he punishes you for it by making you feel demanding and crazy. Here's the truth about what's really happening when someone deepens their emotional investment, when intimacy increases, when vulnerability grows. It's completely natural and healthy for expectations to evolve alongside that growth. You're not being unreasonable for wanting the relationship to reflect the reality of how close you've become. You're not being difficult for expecting someone who has access to your body, your time, your emotions, and your loyalty to give you clarity about where you stand. You're being a normal human being with normal needs, and he's counting on you to believe that those normal needs are excessive demands. The most heartbreaking part of accepting this phrase is how it freezes the relationship in whatever inadequate state he originally defined, while everything else about your connection continue. As to deepen and evolve, you're giving more, feeling more, investing more, risking more, but you're not allowed to expect more because you knew what this was. And this imbalance is exactly what he wants, you giving everything while he gives nothing and you feeling guilty for wanting anything different. The fourth and most dangerous phrase, the one that sounds like profound wisdom, but is actually poison that destroys more women's ability to find real love than any other, is "I don't want to hurt you," or any version of "I don't want to lead you on," right before he continues doing exactly what will hurt you and lead you on. This phrase is the ultimate manipulation because it sounds protective and considerate when it's actually him giving himself permission to treat you badly while making it your fault if you get hurt. When a man says, I don't want to hurt you, he's not protecting you from pain. He's protecting himself from blame when he causes that pain. He's literally telling you that he's about to do things that he knows will hurt you, but because he warned you first, you're supposed to thank him for his honesty and accept whatever scraps of attention he decides to throw your way. This phrase is especially tricky because it makes women believe they're dealing with someone who's mature and self-aware when they're actually dealing with someone who's selfish and calculating. Here's what's actually happening behind these words. He's already decided that you're not the woman he wants long term, but you're useful enough to keep around until something he thinks is better comes along, and he wants to set up the rules of this arrangement immediately so that when he treats you like you don't matter, you can't say he tricked you or misled you. He gets to have your time, your emotions, your body, and your devotion while keeping complete freedom to leave whenever he wants without feeling any guilt about it. What makes this phrase so psychologically damaging is how it makes you feel like you have to prove you're strong enough to handle whatever he gives you, that you're not like other women who need security and promises, that you're cool and mature enough to appreciate his honesty. You start trying to be the perfect woman who never needs anything, never asks for more, and never makes a man feel guilty for treating her poorly. And this is exactly what he wants you to feel, disconnected from your natural human need for security, so that you'll accept a situation that only benefits him. The phrase works because it exploits your desire to be seen as emotionally strong and evolved. Nobody wants to be the woman who can't handle the truth or who needs more than what's being offered. So you convince yourself that accepting his warning and staying anyway proves something admirable about your character, when actually it just proves that he's successfully manipulated you into accepting less than what any person deserves from someone who claims to care about them. Here's what he's not telling you. People who genuinely don't want to hurt you don't tell you they're going to hurt you and then ask you to stick around anyway. People who actually care about your well-being remove themselves from situations where they know they're going to cause you pain. People who truly value you don't set up relationships where your pain is inevitable and expected. When someone tells you they don't want to hurt you, but continues behaving in ways that will absolutely hurt you, they're lying. What they actually mean is they don't want to feel bad about hurting you. The cruelest aspect of this manipulation is how it transfers all responsibility for your pain onto you. He warned you, he was honest, he told you what this was. So when you inevitably get hurt, when your heart inevitably breaks, when you inevitably feel used and discarded, you have nobody to blame but yourself for staying after he told you what would happen. He gets to walk away feeling blameless while you're left destroyed. And worse, you actually defend his behavior to other people because at least he was honest with me. What this phrase really reveals is that he knows his behavior is hurtful. He knows his intentions are selfish. He knows you deserve better. And he's choosing to proceed anyway because getting what he wants from you matters more to him than protecting you from pain. This isn't honesty. This is cruelty with a disclaimer. And the fact that he warns you doesn't make it any less cruel. It just makes it premeditated. Now that you understand these 4 phrases and the destruction they cause, you might be sitting there feeling angry, sick, or maybe validated that someone finally put words to experiences you couldn't quite name. You might be thinking about current situations or past relationships through completely different eyes. And that shift in awareness, as painful as it might be, is exactly what needed to happen. This information isn't meant to make you paranoid about every man or cynical about love. It's meant to give you the tools to instantly recognize people who aren't capable of loving you the way you deserve. Here's what I need you to understand. There are men in this world who will never say these phrases to you because they understand that real love is about creating safety, not testing limits. There are men who see your vulnerability as trust instead of weakness, who deliver difficult truths with kindness because they actually care about your feelings, who give you clarity instead of confusion because they want you to feel secure, who commit to you openly and happily because they recognize your value, and who understand that relationships require consistent effort and see that effort as an investment, not a burden. These men exist, but you'll never find them while you're busy making excuses for men who manipulate you. You'll never attract them while you're accepting treatment that teaches you you're not valuable. You'll never build something beautiful with them while you're exhausting yourself trying to force something broken to work. Start trusting your first instinct before your mind talks you out of it. If something feels wrong in the first few weeks of knowing someone, it probably is. If you find yourself constantly making excuses for someone's words or trying to convince yourself that what they said didn't mean what you know it meant, pay attention to that. If you notice yourself changing your personality, hiding your needs, or lowering your standards to make room for someone's comfort, that's critical information about what's actually happening. Here's the final truth I want to leave you with. You are not responsible for fixing people who hurt you. You are not responsible for teaching people how to love you correctly. And you are not responsible for staying in situations that make you smaller just because someone isn't ready to grow. Your job isn't to be so understanding, so patient, so forgiving that you disappear in the process. Your job is to be authentic, to honor your needs, to trust your instincts, and to build a life that feels right to you. The love you're looking for is looking for you too, but it can only find you when you stop accepting less than what you deserve. It can only recognize you when you're being fully yourself, not when you're performing a smaller, quieter, more convenient version of who you really are. So the next time someone says one of these 4 phrases to you, remember this conversation and remember that you deserve so much more than someone who needs to be convinced of your worth. What you need to understand right now is that every single day you spend with someone who uses these phrases is a day you're stealing from your own future. Every conversation where you make excuses for his behavior is a conversation where you're training yourself to accept less. Every night you go to sleep confused about where you stand is a night you're programming your mind to believe that confusion is normal in love when it absolutely is not. Real love doesn't leave you guessing, real commitment doesn't keep you wondering, and real care doesn't make you feel crazy for having basic human. The hardest part about walking away from these situations isn't losing him, because honestly, you're not losing anything valuable when you leave someone who treats you this way. The hardest part is mourning the version of him that you created in your mind, the potential you saw in him, the future you imagined with him, and accepting that none of that was real. You've been in love with a fantasy while the real person in front of you has been showing you exactly who he is through his words, his actions, and his refusal to choose you clearly. Here's something that nobody talks about enough. Staying in these situations doesn't just waste your time. It actually changes who you are. Every day you accept treatment that goes against your instincts, you lose a little bit of your ability to trust yourself. Every time you make excuses for someone's behavior, you strengthen the part of your brain that doubts your own perception. Every moment you stay with someone